Hi, my name is Dr. Dana Steitman. I'm a licensed psychologist, and I'm here to talk a little bit about reducing conflicts between adults while we are all social distancing during COVID-19. And this is part of the Thursday night parent support group being offered by Dr. Scott Cypers and Dr. Amy Lopez. So, one of the first things I think to go ahead and acknowledge is that this is hard. It is hard to be holed up in our homes. We have probably all figured that out by now, and that it's okay that this is hard. And what we do with that is make a rough plan and then go ahead and be flexible. And we're kind of, Dr. Cypers and Dr. Lopez have talked a lot about doing this with our kids and for our kids. It's also important to be doing that for ourselves and particularly kind of coordinating with our partners or other adults in the house if we are trying to juggle various roles like working, schoolwork, parenting, and so on. And I think one of the first parts of this is thinking about this might be a really weird time. This might be new for many of us to have so much time with a partner or a spouse in all together all day. And it's okay if that's actually strange for us and we don't love it. So just sort of acknowledging that to ourselves. And then how do we make that plan? So really strategically kind of checking in with each other and saying, what do you have going tomorrow? What time do you have meetings you might need to do for work, or do you have other commitments? What times are those? How can we trade off? And also, what kinds of things do you need tomorrow? And so that you can sort of try to stagger and work as a team. I think because we are all, we kind of do this well in our daily lives typically when we're not social distancing, but because we are just at home all day, we may kind of have the expectation that we can do things whenever, or our partners can do things whenever. And then we're finding that that's not the case for those of us that may still have work obligations, work meetings, Zoom meetings, and so on. So really kind of making a plan there so that you can work together. And then where possible, that part of that plan does include some alone time, and that we're actually really trying to be real with ourselves about how much we have left to give to a partner at the end of the day. This is especially true if we're spending all day in our homes with our kids. Many of us aren't getting some of that more solitary or independent time that we might get on a commute to work or other kind of quiet moments during our days before all of this distancing. And so if we just feel depleted and we don't have a lot to keep giving to someone else and we really need that time to ourselves, making sure that we're building that in. Another part of getting along with adults, spouses, partners, or other adults is just reducing vulnerability to disagreements and conflicts escalating. And so this is part of actually a lot of what Dr. Lopez and Cypress talked about tonight was keeping ourselves well, taking care of ourselves in various ways, like eating regular meals, limiting alcohol use, and keeping a regular sleep schedule. And these three I mentioned specifically at this time because I think because of the nature of social distancing and that we don't have these kind of anchors that typically keep us on track like we might out in our normal pre-COVID lives, we might be prone to sort of drifting and not eating at regular times. Or staying up a little later or getting up a little later and kind of getting our schedules out of whack. And in particular with alcohol use, we are, many of us, stressed and or bored right now, which can be risk factors for maybe drinking a little bit more than we would normally. So really kind of keeping those things in check to take care of ourselves. And then whatever those healthy ways are that we generally help reduce stress, as Dr. Cypers would say, that we're kind of taking care of our dam, is how do we make sure that those are still happening? And then a last one is just doing fun stuff together. There are many, many, many studies suggesting that one of the best ways for dating couples, romantic couples, married couples to weather difficult storms or conflicts is to do fun things together so that they're kind of counterbalancing with those stressful events. Now, this is hard right now because many of us are stretched thin, but if we really prioritize that and try to squeeze out a little time on some regular basis to do fun things with our partner, that's going to go a long way to helping us continue to have goodwill toward them. In terms of some communication tactics, a good one, an important one to be using is something called active listening. This is something many people may already be familiar with. There's many helpful handouts and tutorials online if you Google active listening. But essentially, this is a way to really make sure that we are pausing and taking in what our partner is saying and understanding what they're intending to say before we jump in and respond to it. And this sounds relatively simple in practice or in theory, and is actually often much harder to do in practice, particularly when we're talking about areas of conflict with someone. So it does take some practice, but maybe really attending to this right now, particularly when talking about areas that are hot button issues. And I always encourage people, if things are getting heated between you and somebody in another adult in your life, it's okay to take a pause and say, hey, I don't think that this is going in a productive direction. I'm exhausted, or I need some time to decompress. Let's revisit it. And that's a really important part, because if we just pause and don't come back to it, that feels very avoidant, and that can also be counterproductive. So as long as we do indeed come back to it when we're in a better space, and everybody's had some time to cool off, that can also be really important. The other thing I think is important to keep in mind right now is to really try to practice gratitude on a regular basis, on a daily basis even. There are so many stressful news stories and information flying around that it can be easy to sort of lose sight of what things are good or going well. And so really trying to intentionally reflect on that, and ideally with our partners if we can, and saying thank you, which is, just one of the most basic things we can do is appreciate our partners. And yet when we get stressed, a lot of times those are the first things to get pushed out. So really making sure that we're continuing to do that. And as well as, I think, a shift in mindset to the extent we can. So for example, a lot of us are really focused on feeling stuck at home right now, feeling kind of cooped up. Understandable, and that's okay. And can we also sometimes feel maybe gratitude or appreciative that we are able to do this, to keep ourselves safe from this virus, to spend time with our families, to slow down, right? Trying to find those things as we can that we can appreciate about the circumstance can help us approach our partners and our loved ones with a little more grace. So last thing is, just want to close out with a resource. If things are escalating in a way where people are feeling unsafe or they have concerns, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE, that can be a resource. But hopefully some of these tools and tips can help us all get through these days of social distancing, and perhaps even have some special or pleasant moments with our partners in the process. All right, thanks everyone.